morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's really great to be here again in this house of worship, and I just want to start out by thanking Reverend Q, who I know we call Reverend Q, not Reverend English. But I do want to say to Reverend Q and Tim English, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to come here today. I just got some important news from my wife. Today was my 8-month-old son's checkup at the doctor. And in the era of email and text message, my wife said that Miles is 19 pounds, 14 ounces. That's just around 50%. His head is 45.9 centimeters. His head is 75% above average. He said to me, he's got your head. So I don't know what that means. I think she's starting. But I do want to thank you all for being here today and to talk to you about what Reverend English is talking about, which is basically we've got a new government on our hands. We've got a new mayor, new controller, new public advocate, many new members of the city council, and a new speaker. We really have a wholesale political change in city government. Now, some people are concerned about that. New people coming in with new ideas, that sort of disturbs the establishment. But I actually think it's an opportunity for us to look at new policies and new agendas that help everybody in the city. And one of the things I learned during my campaign was that when you get out beyond Manhattan as a former borough president, you do see that there's been a whole lot of folks who've just been ignored by City Hall, people who felt left out, parents struggling to raise their children, trying to put food on the table. Somehow there was a disconnect between City Hall and the rest. And part of what we have got to do in this government is make sure that we address the needs of all people, regardless of background, regardless of income. We have to create a fair city. And one of the reasons why I went to Albany with Mayor de Blasio early on was basically to say two things to the state legislators. I'm a former state legislator, so I know how tough it is up there. But as controller, I said, look, we've got to do a couple of things. The first is, we really do need a steady revenue stream for pre-K. Does everyone agree? We have got to educate our children. It doesn't start at age 5 in kindergarten. It doesn't even start as a 4-year-old in pre-K, right? It actually starts 0 to 3. So even if we get pre-K, we still have to do more. The earlier we get our kids into the education system, the better off they will be. So this is a tough fight, and it's a fight that we have to win. Because if we're going to meet the economic challenges of the city, we have got to prepare our children. And let's face it, there's a lot of folks out there raising kids as single parents, really struggling. There's no daycare. There's no opportunity to catch a break. We've got to make sure that parents have every avenue available to them so their children can make it. What kind of city are we? The greatest, richest city in the world. If we can't keep the promise that every child has an opportunity to make it. Now, some children don't start this life's race the same, right? I mean, they just don't. Some kids have some real issues starting out. You may have one parent, or you may be in a neighborhood where it's really tough. You may not have a lot of money in your family. You may be raised by your grandparents who are aging. But that should not define you. That should not limit you. Doesn't matter how you start the race, it's how you finish the race. And we have got to get every child to the finish line. I hope you agree with that, pastors. I really do. Second thing we've got to talk about is what are we going to do to lift up our city economically? Part of that starts with recognizing something that I think we tend to ignore. Minimum wage, one size does not fit all. If we in this city have a minimum wage that is the same as Buffalo, the same as Rochester, the same as Albany, then that's absurd. The cost of living in New York City compared to Albany is to Buffalo is 80% more. To Rochester, it's 60% more. Albany, 50% more. So if you have a minimum wage here that's $11, and they have a minimum wage of $11, well, think about that. Is that fair? No. It's not fair. So when I said in Albany we do need a minimum wage in New York City for 11 or more, it was because we need to stretch that dollar. And if New York City was allowed to raise its own minimum wage, and let's say we use the $11 figure, we would be able to pump billions of dollars into our economy in neighborhoods that could have a real multiplier effect for our small businesses and our homes. So that's one issue that we have to tackle as well. So whether it's pre-K or minimum wage, we have to create an economic agenda that lifts everybody up. That has got to be the goal. And the way we're going to get it, as Reverend Rivera indicated, is we've got to build coalition. We've got to bring the religious community together with the activist community. We do have to take a look at subsidies and where we're going to find the money and be strategic about where we invest. You know, when I was growing up in Washington Heights, you know Washington Heights? Tip of Manhattan's above Harlem. Well, that community, when I was growing up, we didn't have any banks because no one wanted to invest in that neighborhood in the 1970s during the fiscal crisis. I still remember where the only bank was in Washington Heights. I still remember that no developer wanted to come in. Nobody wanted to be part of the community. Well, they do now, right? And we cannot let development and people come in without making sure that we have a strong base support from community. And that is something that we have to think about. How we can create economic opportunity, not just top down, but create a real opportunity for everybody to have a say in how neighborhoods change. Now, I know that skylines change. As a former borough president, change is good in the city. You got to energize local communities, create new jobs, put people to work. But you have to do it with the community support and building those relationships. That's why this roundtable is so important to me. And that's why I'm here today, because I want to let you know that as we think about how we open up more bank accounts for our Bank On program, how we're going to work strategically in communities, talking about the city's finances, it can't be top down. It has to be at a table, at a round table with all of you. Part of why I think today is important is this isn't just a fly-by, drop-in, see you in 4 years. I want to pledge that to you today. I want to keep coming back, I want to keep building relationships, and I want to respond to your issues and concerns. The Comptroller's job has never been more important. Our job is to be the chief fiscal watchdog of the city. I've got to monitor city agencies. I've got to root out waste and fraud, because every dollar I can save can go to education, affordable housing, and programs that really matter. I'm going to do that in this job. In the coming weeks as Comptroller, we're going to have a real discussion about women and minority-owned businesses. That's going to be a real discussion. We're going to have a program that speaks to those issues. Let's face it, it's easier now to get certified as women and minority-owned businesses, but it's a lot harder to get procurement contracts. The city spends $10.5 billion a year on these kind of contracts. Guess how many of those contracts are accessed by women and minority-owned businesses? 5%. Majority minority city, 5%. Now there's something wrong with that. And the Comptroller's office has got to be the place where we examine strategically how we can get more people involved in the procurement process. And it's not just a civil rights issue. It's an economic issue. The more people of diverse backgrounds are part of our financial system, the more we can grow communities, especially in the Bronx. And I'm going to work on that. And lastly, I want to just recognize two people who are leading in our office to build the citywide coalitions on these campaigns. I want to introduce our Deputy Comptroller for Public Affairs, Camille Joseph. You give a round of applause. We were in caucus weekend, just getting over the flu. Shanifa Riera used to be my director of our 125th Street office in Harlem. She's now with us as well as our key senior advisor. And you may know Jason. Where's Jason? Jason, there he is, right here, is our guy in the Bronx, Jason Layden. Please give him a round of applause. And a young, shy man in the back, I don't know if any of you know him, but Joe Rivera is also with us in the Bronx. You can see we mean business. We've got a strong group of people who are ready to meet the challenges in this community. So with that said, I'd be honored to take questions. I thank you for giving me this opportunity to come by and share ideas. I didn't really want to make a speech. I'd rather have a dialogue. I know this community very well during the campaign. Nobody is shy around here, Reverend. I know that. So thank you all very much. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So